Hey all, hope you're doing great. So in the previous video, what we did was that we made a basic network topology, and then we assigned IP addresses, and we saw how we can send messages between a router and the end devices in its own network. However, we did see that we weren't able to send messages between end devices among networks. So we couldn't send a message from this laptop to this laptop in another network. And we could also not do that for sending a message from this router to an end device in another network. So the way that we achieve that is by routing. Now, there's a lot of types of routing. There's static routing and there's dynamic routing. And today we're going to be focusing on static routing, which basically is that you manually configure and select your networks. And you do that because you believe that your network parameters and your environment, that's mostly going to stay constant. It's not going to change like it does in dynamic routing. So there are just some really simple commands that you have to follow. If you want to learn how to make this topology and assign these IP addresses, you can see my previous video. But let's go on ahead with doing the routing. So I've labeled the IP addresses over here for ease. What we're going to do is we're going to start with this router. So you click on the router, you go to the command line interface, press enter, enable, and config T or configure terminal. And then once you're in configuration mode, you just have to write one simple command a few times over. And that command is that you write IP route. So let's go ahead and say IP route. And then you write all the networks in the topology separately. So you're not going to write 1.0.0.0 since that's the IP, sorry, that's the IP address that's directly connected to this router. You're going to start with 2. So let's say 2.0.0.0. That covers all from 2.0.0.0 to 2.25.25.25. So you're going to say that, and then you're going to write the subnet mask. And since this is A class, as you'll recall, the subnet mask for A class is 255.0.0.0. And once you write that, you're going to write the opposite connection from the one that's directly connected to this router. So directly connected to this router is 4.1.1.1, and the one that's opposite is 4.1.1.2. So we're going to say 4.1.1.2 and press enter. And then we're going to do this same command for all the other IP addresses in the topology. So then with 3.0, then not with 4, obviously, because this is 4 because 4 is directly connected, as you can see. And then let's do it with 5, although it's directly connected 5 over here, but it's directly connected from this side. From this side, it's not directly connected, so we are going to want to do that. And then the last one, which is 6. And then this is a bit of a hassle. It's a bit of a hassle, static routing, because you have to write the commands over and over again. First with this, with 4.1.1.2, and then you can see that there's another opposite connection, 5.1.1.2. So we're also going to do the same thing once again with 5.1.1.2. So go ahead and do it for 3, and then 4, and not 5, obviously, since this is 5 that we're using. So 6. And then once you've done that, you can enter exit. And this router has basically been statically routed, but we also need to do that for the other routers in the topology. So let's go ahead and do that for the second router. Go to CLI, enable, config T, command IP route. This time we're going to do 1.0.0.0 and then the subnet mask. And then the opposite connection to this is now 5.1.1.1. So let's do that. Let's not do it with 2 since 2 is directly connected to this. So then with 3, then 4, and not 5 since this is 5, and then 6. And then we're going to go ahead and do that with the other side, which is 6.1. See, the opposite connection is 6.1.1.1. So with 1.0, then with 3.0, with 4, and lastly with 5. And then we can go ahead and press exit, enter exit. Now let's do this for the last router as well. And config T, IP route 1.0.0.0, then the subnet mask. And let's see what the opposite connection is over here. So the opposite connection over here is 4.1.1.1. Do it for 2 as well, not for 3 since that's directly connected over here. Not for 4 as well, for 5, and lastly for 6. And let's do this with the other opposite connection, which is 6.1.1.2. So starting with 1, then 2, not 3 since it's directly connected, 4, and lastly 5. And then let's go ahead and press exit. And now if we were to say in this router, show IP route, we'd see that 3 of the connections, this 3, 4, and the 6 are connected directly. So they say C for 3, 4, and 6, and statically, which is shown with an S, for 1, 2, and 5, which let's also go ahead and show that to you in this router. So show IP route. And for this, we have 1, 4, and 5. 1, 4, and 5 in direct connection, and the others in static connection. And the same is going to be in this router, that 6, 5, and 2 are going to be directly connected, and the rest of them are going to be statically connected. So let's go ahead and delete the scenario so we can free up some slots. And now if we wanted to send a message from any end device in a network to another network send device, and I told you that we have to double click sometimes, you'll see that it's successful. So we can send it from this laptop to this laptop as well. And double click, then from this laptop to this laptop. And you can see that they've all been statically routed, so we can now send messages among networks as well. You can do the same for from this router to this router, to this network's end device. And then from this router to this router's end device. And let's also try it with this router, just to be sure. So that's how you do static routing. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Or if you have any requests for any video, do let me know. See you next time. Hope you learned something.